I'm impressed, JJ, that after 493 episodes, I could have been fooled.
What now?
I was fooled. Off the air, we were talking about Mike Trout becoming not injured by his significant hit in the hand. That was loud.
It didn't look good.
Yeah. They started 2-0 this year, and it was like the first time since the Reagan administration.
Lord, that's a depressing stat.
It's not that bad, but it's like the first time in Trout's career or something silly like that. They started 2-0 and then proceeded to like lose and lose and lose and lose. They introduced the new president and lost. It's just the same Angels, man.
Oof, yeah.
The fish rots from the head, they say.
Baseball's back.
And I don't mean the president.
I feel like this season, faster than several recent seasons, there were very quickly no undefeated teams left.
Yeah.
I feel like someone usually opens the season on a tear, but nope, 4 games in and everyone had at least one loss this year.
I know
the Dodgers are still looking good.
Yeah, they're going to win 100 games again without breaking a sweat, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
Or the bank.
No, they are breaking the bank, but it doesn't matter.
They broke the rules of the bank. They didn't break the bank.
We can all console ourselves that we're not the San Francisco Giants, who apparently have had 3 clubhouse incidents already.
Ooh.
Undisclosed, right? They haven't said what those are yet.
The media only know about one of them, and because players were yelling at each other in a meeting on the mound, and then while interviewing the coach disclosed that 2 others had happened they didn't know about.
Oh, yikes. It's going to be a long season.
Yikes. Wow.
The only stat I know, and that's only because I was watching a game today, the starting pitching of the Pittsburgh Pirates had not given up a home run until today. Which is
Say that again. Starting pitching of the Pirates?
Pittsburgh Pirates, yeah.
Combined starting pitching.
Yeah. They're a team.
Had not given up any home runs until today when the Padres took Paul Skeens deep, which made me laugh because everyone loves him and I hate him.
Yeah, I was going to say of all the pitchers who broke the streak.
Yeah, it kind of tracks, doesn't it?
I'm still bitter that he got Rookie of the Year over the player on the Padres who deserved it.
Okay. I mean, you're allowed to be. I mean, I'm still bitter over a call the Angels got against the Chicago White Sox in like the 2002 playoffs. I mean,
look, man, this is what being a fan is about. You get to be bitter over things for forever,
Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah. Speaking of baseball being back, though, I think the biggest change this year, and what I am most curious to hear from everyone about, I have even talked to some baseball players about it. How are you liking ABS so far?
I'm very curious what the baseball players think, but I think it's fine. I've had very little complaints. It's handled very much like the old system in tennis, which is interesting. Because I think the new line systems in tennis don't work like this anymore, right? I don't know how much tennis you guys watch.
Michael watches a decent amount, I believe.
Not as much as I used to, but I try to keep up with it.
So have you watched like a modern, Sinner Alcaraz tennis match, right?
Yes. Yep.
Like they don't do when the player doesn't have to challenge this thing or whatever, and it doesn't bring up the little graphic and it doesn't zoom in to show the ball missing the line or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't do that anymore. They just go the player does the thing and then the umpire goes immediately out or whatever, and the play just resumes. There's no wait time, no little graphic or whatever. And so this is very clearly modeled on that older system, which I think works fine for baseball. It doesn't interrupt the game too much.
I have noticed it not slowing down the game, but definitely taking the pace out of the game, as many of the batters, to their credit, are catching balls that are balls. Because they're supposed to lose their challenges when they lose their challenges, or when the
challenge is wrong. Yeah.
When the challenges, my sentence does work. Lose their challenges when they lose their challenges, but
yes,
it doesn't.
But it's confusing.
Yes.
It doesn't make any sense, but it works. I think though, seeing like challenge, it feels like the game is becoming, to an outsider, a little bit more skewed towards like, well, what are we doing without just automating this?
So I think the game, it is rare that when you get a game like this where it's like challenge, because 90% of the calls in the games don't get challenged. Sure. Right? Either it's not an advantage. So like that's the other thing that is interesting, is like when the players opt to deploy it or not, right? Mm-hmm. There's often, I've seen like iffy calls, the player is definitely like, ooh, that's definitely not a strike, but then they don't challenge it, right? Because it's like top of the order, no outs, no one on base, and they don't bother wasting the challenge in case they're wrong.
Yeah, see, the one I saw was he was pretty confident it was a full count, and he got a ball that looked to be outside, and he challenged it, and without even waiting, just started walking to first base.
Yeah, those are the good ones.
That was the Reds player, wasn't it?
No, one of the Braves players did it.
Braves. Oh, I saw a Reds player doing that the other day. Who just like literally started taking off his gear,
took it off, and just started walking
as he's walking.
Yeah, they just start walking. I will tell you, I think you could guess pitchers versus batters, what their opinions kind of are on this scenario.
I assume the batters like it, but I don't know what the pitchers feel about it.
The batters are confident in themselves, and they should be, that they know what the strike zone is.
Right.
And are being proven correct. And so, in general, there's more nuance to take to this. Batters are liking it. Pitchers feel that painting corners is no longer an art. And catchers the same. Like, what are we doing here? What's the point? I can't frame a pitch, right?
Well, yeah, the framing part is not valid anymore, and that was a bit of the art. So I understand that, but the catcher framing was always a bit of a what do you call it?
It was for the eye of the umpire, right? The umpire used it as a cheat, and I personally,
and some were more susceptible to it than others, right? For sure.
I had my first opinion on this whole thing was the one that I said at the beginning, which was like, it seemed like the game was interrupted a lot. And then after talking to some people about it, I kind of was like, all right, I know people's opinion was going to be different than mine. And I kind of knew it's the way of the future. So my opinion shifted during all these conversations into, it's really going to change catching quite a bit. The stats for catchers and what they find important is going to be different in the future. But there's some good nuanced takes out there about, especially like the ball touching like a tenth of the plate is a strike, right? And that kind of doesn't feel like it should be, but at the same time, to keep it fair for the pitcher, it should be. So there's some nuance in letting the challenge go through, but the call stay. So like if the umpire calls a strike on something that's not 100, like 50% in the strike zone, maybe changing that into like a non-call either direction. I don't know. I don't know that I have a change personally, but
yeah, I think the thing it has done, which is good, is give the terrible umpires that exist like a mechanism for the players to be like, look, bozo, get the hell out of here and stop being in this league. If you're getting embarrassed like 7 times in a game or 3 times in a single at bat, like get a dang grip,
Yeah.
And these umpires need to either retire or stop being behind home plate if they just can't do this.
I'd like to see at the end of the season what the stats are on challenges versus umpire calls, right? Like how often are and break it down by umpire, right? Like how often are certain umpires getting called out by challenges and either winning or losing, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I wonder if there'll be any gamesmanship from umpires to now like call worse
Bait
calls.
people into using the calls. Like, I don't know what that would. The umpires try to call the game as the game. I don't think there's like.
No, but I know
There
if
shouldn't
you're an
be.
umpire, you don't want to end up at the bottom of this list, right? And so maybe there's a world where some of these umpires are
you end up
calling.
not at the bottom of the list by trying to bait people into challenging things incorrectly. You wind up not at the bottom of the list by
calling it right.
By calling it right, yeah.
Yeah.
And either not getting challenged or having the batter second guess you incorrectly.
Because I think the real thing is that, like, I don't know that whether if an umpire was getting overturned 100% of the time, right, which doesn't happen, but even if that was the case, I don't think there's any feedback mechanism for MLB to tell the umpires union to get rid of a guy. I don't think it matters. And maybe this is just like step one to increase public pressure on the umpires, but like,
could be.
There's already a lot of public pressure on the umpires. People hate umpires and have since the beginning of baseball. I don't think this changes
that's a rough
anything.
gig.
So, you know, I don't know what, you know, it's not like there's a performance review and, you know, the ABS percentage is going to show up on their report card or something. You know, I highly, highly doubt that the umpires union cares, you know, about that other than a, like, you know, pride of umpiring or something.
Yeah.
I think it's a system that's going to stay in place. I think it's a good change to the game overall. But like you said, tennis has adopted changes to it, and I think that this is not going to stay the way it is.
Yeah, I think that's the part that will change over time, right? Like they'll, you know, either go to a faster or different kind of system that, like, you know, the umpire goes challenge and a light flashes behind him, you know, red or green or whatever, and then it's over. They don't have to wait 15 seconds for a replay. And everyone looking at the screen being like, Aw.
Yeah,
But
I
maybe
think it was cool in the start when it first debuted in tennis, right? And the audience liked to see the thing come up on the screen.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point, right? Like maybe they want the reaction this season just to see how people take it. And then 4 seasons from now, everyone is sick of seeing the damn ball travel and T-Mobile's sign or whatever.
Yeah, they just want it to pop up and say what it is. No more animation.
Yeah, so we'll see. You know, I agree with you, Andy. There probably are tweaks. I think giving the whole team only 2 was a good call. I think more would have been bad.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm supportive of the way it is now. Has the extra innings part of this ever come into play yet?
I do not know the answer to that. That's a good question.
Yeah, and I was going to ask that same question.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of baseball playing all the time, so it's hard to know what has and hasn't happened.
Sure. Well, speaking of rule changes that are necessary, sorry, Michael, it's F1 time.
Oh, that's okay. I'm going to see how badly my Braves are beating your Angels.
Bad? I'm sure it's bad.
I mean, Atlanta lost last night, but continue. You were talking F1.
No, that's fine. The Braves are up 5-2. So I didn't realize the Braves were also 6-5.
Yeah. Yep.
So one of us ends below 500, and that's probably that way for the rest of the season.
Both of you have better records than the Padres.
Yeah, we could both end the series 500. There's 2 more games.
Oh yeah. I just meant tonight, I guess. But
the Padres lost like 4 of their first 5 or something. They played horrible at the start.
Oof.
Yeah, bumpy road, huh? All right, Michael, you will probably be interested in the engineering part of this for real, actually.
Yes, I am intrigued to hear more details of this.
We had some comments on the racing with the new regulations and what we thought it might bring to the game. But Michael, how bad do you think it feels to crash into a wall at 50G? That's a 5-0 number. 5-0.
Yeah. considering that I see us do testing at work where we shake parts with 20G, I've got a feeling that it's going to rattle some bones.
Yeah, all your bones.
Watching it happen, right? I watched this race that we're discussing. We're discussing the Japanese Grand Prix. I watched it live when we saw him hit that wall, in the replay because they didn't show the initial impact live. And the driver climb out. I'm like, he can walk. Like, praise be. Like, good job. Like, engineers. Yeah.
I thought he was going to pull himself out of the car, get to the wall, and then
they realize like his left leg is still in the car or something.
Yeah. It was pretty brutal. So Ollie Bearman, I mean, clearly made a mistake. But also, who was in front of him? Colapinto also made a mistake. And everyone is blaming the closing speeds caused by the new regulations for these mistakes.
Okay.
Is that a fair assessment of your takeaway from this, JJ? I think
the slight bit of nuance is that while you can say it's the driver's mistake, the way the power gets deployed in these cars is not completely up to the driver in the way you would think it would be.
It's not a boost button exactly.
Yeah, which like is the sensible thing that you would think, but that's not how the system works. And so Colapinto had no option at that point. Once the mistake was made and he's now in the mode that he's in, he couldn't go faster. Like he couldn't make it go to, use the boost or whatever. It was just going to be that he's slower and Bearman is faster. And so, what's the famous quote? Like, if there's a gap and you don't go for it, you're not a racing driver or whatever.
Sure.
Right? Like, Bearman had to try the overtake.
Well, and also they now have so much more speed to overtake with, especially in areas like corners and stuff like that they want to go for it, right? Let's try it out.
So you can't blame either party here, and I think that's why wisely no one got a penalty for it. But Colapinto was defending and moving over in towards the middle of the line, which forces Bearman to go all the way to the edge, and then he clips a little bit of that grass, at which point then he's a passenger into the wall.
Right.
Oof.
So, yeah, and at high speed, right? And on an area of track where there are not typically crashes, right? Because this is a straight.
Correct.
So, yeah, just a scary thing all around. But yeah, I think that's pretty much the consensus people have is like, oh, the delta between the car is now too fast, right? The closing speed that can exist is so high that it's, the split second you have to make a decision is now even shorter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I guess the drivers in general, led by Williams driver, help me out.
Carlos Sainz.
Carlos Sainz
from the Grand Prix Drivers Association.
Yeah, is the head of their association. Are all kind of like, well, we told you this was going to be a thing, which is not exactly what I understood their complaint to be in the past. I really feel like this might be a little bit of rewriting history about revisionist history about what they said the problems were with the cars. They're not wrong to have pointed out any sort of problems if they thought they were safety issues, but just saying like this is what we were complaining about is not what I understood to be the problems before.
And it's also like, who knows what every single person said, and maybe all of them mentioned this, but it was like the fifth thing on their list of feedback, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, who knows what teams pay attention to? It's like, well, number 1 bullet point, I hate this. Number 2 bullet point, like 3, 4, 5, and then down here is like, oh yeah, well the closing speeds are way higher, huh? Weird. Like, hard to know because it's not like this stuff is public,
right? I feel like the racing part of it, interestingly, also changed during this week, and I think that made a lot of it worse. did it feel like it to you also that maybe the race, while there was some passing back and forth, the drivers are starting to force the races back into much of the pace and design that was happening last season? How do you feel about the racing?
There definitely was less to be excited for in terms of the racing at this specific track than the previous one, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, if you go back historically, the last set of regulations, the race in Japan for like the last couple of years was a procession. There was like nothing that happened that didn't involve pit strategy.
Right.
So the fact that any passes happened on track is an upgrade. Now, that doesn't mean I have to like it, like it doesn't need to be this way necessarily.
Mhm.
And I think that's part of the issue is that this new formula of regulations is really, really sensitive to the type of track that they're at. And so without, we're missing 2 races here due to them being in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Have been canceled. And so it would be very interesting to have seen races at those more street circuit style of track
Right.
and how this would affect there. And I will have to wait until May to see that happen in Miami. But I do wonder, is this style meant more for these more closer, tighter turn type tracks where, because the calendar has increasingly added more and more of these street circuits, right? With these like narrow, hard to pass turns and stuff where this stuff maybe would be more exciting. But
Right.
we don't know.
I was watching it and noticing, to me, especially the way my favorite driver, George Russell, treated the race, was like it was somehow some weird foregone conclusion that the cars had to be in the order they were. And it was like, we've seen that these cars can pass, but I don't know why every time there was a pass, immediately or soon after there was a pass back.
So the reasoning that happens, right? And I think they've, like, a bunch of people have talked about this in the like wider F1 media, but it's because of the way the power deployment works. If you are using your deployment, your overtake mode or whatever to pass somebody, and you don't do it at the right times, like when you pass the lap marker, your deployment quantity or whatever resets. And so you make a pass at the last turn and then reset your energy budget or whatever, and then get more to like keep the pass in contention, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those places and where it's like sensible to make those passes obviously changes track by track. And I feel like even by the time of the race, not all the drivers figure out how that works. And like they make a pass, then the straight comes and the other guy passes them right back on the next lap, right?
Right.
After their budget's all reset. And then like a couple laps later, the driver goes, okay, I see what happens here. And then they do it the right way and make the pass stick. If that's going to happen, right?
Right.
But it is definitely all related to, how they deploy, when they deploy, if they're using it defensively or not, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's it's been fascinating to see the development. I really hope. I liked the idea that in the first weeks, the technical changes in the cars and how they were so kind of different from each other, and they had different pieces, and some of them could do different things, was going to change to have actual back and forth racing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was happening. I mean, Verstappen again charged through the field for a while until he hit a racer that was just sort of like, I'm going to sort of clog up the field and drive the old way, and got stuck.
And notably, I think you're talking about Gasly here.
Gasly was in front of him, yeah.
notably, Gasly is using a Mercedes power engine, right? So like it's possible they just have an engine advantage over the Red Bull car.
Mm-hmm.
And say whatever you want about the Red Bull's drivers. Verstappen is very good, clearly, but both Verstappen and Hadjar have talked about like, yeah, our car and our engine is pretty good, but the problem is that like our car is inconsistent, and so they're worried. The driver doesn't feel confident to attack the corner like Verstappen normally can. Right. And when you get to the very limit and you're pushing the very last tenth, it becomes very difficult if it's going to understeer or oversteer or whatever. That's that's the scariest place to be. So I think it will be very interesting to see the deltas here because of this unexpected break. They've talked a lot about the turbo spool up stuff at the start, right?
Okay.
The whole deal with the regulation is like they're free to design the engine how they want, make as big a turbo as you want, right?
Sure.
But you got to make the turbo go.
Yeah.
And the system they used to use for that was the piece that they took out in these regulations. So having a smaller turbo that spins up faster can be beneficial. That's why Ferrari is able to get off the line so much better, is what people have theorized. And why some of the teams, like Audi, who qualify really well, then plummet back immediately into the back of the field because their turbos take way too long to spin up and they can't get full power up off the start.
I see.
And so it'll be interesting to see what teams are allowed to change. Some engine component stuff like these turbos and stuff aren't allowed to change yet because there's like fixed times in the schedule when they're allowed to make changes to certain engine components.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there's these like, if your engine, there's a whole, man, dude, the rules are so ridiculous. But there are certain periods of time where the FIA somehow measures your engine's performance against the rest of the field. And whatever the benchmark, the best engine is, if you're within certain deltas of that engine, you're allowed to make certain sets of additional upgrades. And the farther away you are, the more changes you can make.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of teams, like the teams in the way back, Audi and some of these other ones, have been saying like, oh yeah, we have like some really good ideas to improve our performance a lot, but we need to hit some of those milestones first because we're not allowed to make changes to these components until then. But, things like suspension and aerodynamics and, handling stuff, all that's fair game.
Fascinating. All right. Yeah. If you could change any of the rules in Slay the Spire, would you? Or are you still feeling them out?
I feel like I know the rules pretty well at this point. I just need to like get good instead of being bad. Man, yeah, it's I've won runs with 3 out of the 5 characters. I just can't figure it out with the defect or the defect? Yeah, the defect or the regent. And I think some of it is like, you lose a run and then you just immediately are like, all right, let's just like start again or whatever. And you're not like focusing hard enough on like what you're actually doing. Just like rage.
Trying to brute force it a little bit too much.
Rage restarting or like, trying to force builds. That game is a little tough in the like, you kind of have to take what you get to some degree. You can't just like, I want to do this build. I was so close to winning with it. Like I'm going to force that build again. It doesn't work like that. Right. But yeah, I mean, that game is still really good. I will continue playing more and more of it. I really do want to do a co-op run sometime.
I installed it.
I love to hear that.
I haven't had time to sit down with it. This is my busy season for the next month and a half, so I'm struggling to get through most days.
Well, it's on, I'm sure it's a great Steam Deck game, so.
Yeah, I'm hoping to boost that up to the top of the list. For sure.
Music to my ears.
Yes. Do you feel like you are, I mean, at least advancing in your understanding of the new characters?
I definitely understand the Necrobinder. I don't understand the Regent all the way yet, as evidenced by me not winning with them, but I see cool things. I just haven't ever gotten it to happen, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like I know a bunch of the cards and I'm like, oh man, I could see how if you got these ones together, you could do some really cool stuff. But then I get those cards and then I don't have enough energy or I haven't done the things in the right order and then it doesn't work, right?
Right.
So the pieces exist. I just haven't figured out how to put them together yet with that guy. And the defect, I think I just need to get good. I'm just not doing it, man. I don't know. It plays very similar to the previous Slay the Spire 1 defect.
Sure.
A lot of the stuff is the same, but a little more focus on like it's less easy to like block your way out of every single attack and you're sort of forced to take more damage. So that's a little different Slay the Spire way. So yeah, again, game feels really good. I think they're still doing balance stuff. They've said that they want to add at least 1 or 2 more characters, but no timeline. So who knows what that means, right?
Right.
But yeah,
That's
really
fair.
good. Oh, and then they said an ending, which is like, oh, this isn't an ending.
Oh, well, see, early access, dude. This is why.
Yeah. But that's what happened to Slay the Spire 1 also. It released without the heart, basically, right? So
I remember.
Did you ever beat the heart? Either of you guys?
Not me.
No, I never really played too much of the first one.
Okay. Yeah, I never beat it either. The heart is really hard.
Well, speaking of endings, I heard that you've got an ending to talk to us about.
No, because I can't
not
spoil.
Talk to us about.
Yeah, I can't.
You saw some credits that you can't disclose.
I got to the
this
end
is you
of
and
Trails.
time.
Yeah, I got to the end of Trails Beyond the Horizon.
What
I can't
number
talk
is that?
about.
I need to know the number because
it's game 13.
13. Okay, because I really am doing my very best not to come up with stupid names anymore because I know it's probably annoying. But if you can't tell me the number and at least acknowledge how insane that is, that it's the 13th one, and they're all connected.
Yes. It's sort of what I want to talk about is that this is, we talked before, I feel like we talked before on this podcast that this is like the MCU of video games.
Yeah.
This is now
turning into it.
No, this is now better than the MCU.
Oh.
It's gone for longer, right? The first Trails game started in 2004, and now it is the year 2026. They've done 13 games in that time frame.
Whoa.
That's a lot of games in a relatively not that lot of time. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
And most of them are good, unlike what has happened to the MCU.
Yeah. Pretty high quality across the board.
Yeah. And, it's the same characters, so that's better than the MCU. It's the same, the continuous part of the story continues, right? I think the entire games span like a 10 to 15 year period or something like that, maybe a little shorter than that.
Okay.
So it's like a very compressed time that we've seen all of these things.
Yeah, they're not doing like huge time jumps and stuff.
No. And they're referencing stuff from the early games continuously in the later games. I desperately want to see, they will never do it, but what is the lore Bible for this game, this series, right? It must be 5,000 pages or something.
I bet you once they finally wrap the series, there will be a big community push for them to publish something like that. Whether or not they even bother to listen, but I feel like there would be a lot of interest in something like that.
Yeah, an encyclopedia or something. But
yeah,
there is to show the interconnectedness, right? I learned stuff in this game, this 13th game, about stuff that happened in like the second and third games that was not known, right? Mysteries from those games that were left intentionally mysterious that they explain out here.
How can they have left it this long for you to try to remember, though? That's the thing I don't get.
Yeah, so that is the thing I didn't.
Right.
And it does require you to go back. But there are And there always have been, in some of these games, like words that the characters get blurred out or like bleeped, right? That definitely happens in SC and Third, where like they say something, but you can't like you can't read it in the text, and it's not said in the voice. It just sounds like garbled. And there are explanations for what some of those things are, and it fits perfectly with the scene back then. So it had to have been planned at that time.
Right.
There are scenes in some of the middle games that I don't think either of you guys have played, where characters are referencing things and they say stuff that at the time was considered to be wrong or a mistranslation because it didn't make any sense, that get recontextualized 2 or 3 games later, and you're like, oh, he was talking about something else we didn't know.
Oh, fascinating.
Which is like the weirdest thing, right? And again, these are like big overarching lore type things. So like the story of the game is still completely followable, right? Like the actual plot in the games and the individual arcs is clear. But these are like, background world lore building type mysteries and stuff. And those are the ones that tend to hang, right? So yeah, it's very, very interesting. And I just can't believe that they are revealing some of this stuff, this far into this project that ties up so many of these ends. And it doesn't explain, of course, there's still a lot more and they don't explain everything. It just would be, it's not the end of the series.
Sure.
But I was flabbergasted at the stuff that I learned, and like that I couldn't have it fit too well for it not to have been planned a long time ago. And you're just like, what insane person, whatever, came up with this contrivance?
Have they said who's in charge of all this story? It's got to be one person at this point, right? That's like,
so the person who has been the producer on these games has been there, at this same company for the entire time. So it's possible it's just that guy. But no, they haven't said like specifically who writes. I mean, I guess you could go through credits and see like who are the scenario writers or whatever. But I don't believe they're all the same person. But maybe the franchise director or something is like, still has that 5,000 page PDF, and it's just like, no, guys, over here, But it is impressive, and like I can't think. Can you guys think of a video game property like this? Like this many continuous games in a thing without rebooting, restarting, resetting?
No, not all in a sequence. There's always something that's different, right? They restart, or it doesn't run quite this long.
Yeah, like Final Fantasy has 16 in a row, but they started in the 80s. And those games have nothing to do with each other.
That's the thing, is like they're not connected. What about how many games are in Wolfenstein?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Because they had that run of a bajillion games
in
a row, and they had a bunch of games way back when, and those games are all connected.
Very early on, I think you're definitely right. There was probably like 5 or 6 of those like early 3D shooter Wolfensteins, and they had like another 4 or 5 later in the like the more modern shooter era.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of series that even have this many games. Right, the Tales series comes to mind, but those are, I believe, pretty standalone.
Yeah, so I think they might have like 2 game arcs, but they're definitely not this many.
No.
What about Castlevania? Are those all connected enough for us?
No.
Oh, okay. Wolfenstein, if they're all connected, has 11 maybe. But again, some of those are weird side games, like an RPG game that I don't think anybody played, and like a mobile game.
I bet the Castlevania series has enough games to have more, but they aren't connected story-wise, right? And like the same characters don't even show up, although some of the monsters do. So that part is like,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it is just like it is such a weird thing, and I think that the that characters are consistent, that places, people, the world is all the same over such a long period of time is really,
Right.
really amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fascinating.
I could rant another 20 minutes about the ending and what it talks about, but I cannot spoil it because it is too good. I would not take this from someone.
We have a wonderful segue with something that is an insanely long series that is all connected, but is not a game. That you two need to talk about.
I felt that this is where this was going.
There you go, Michael. Take it away.
So I finished the first book in the most recent trilogy of the Dragonlance cinematic universe, let's call it, right?
Another book.
Oh my
series.
God, you guys, we got to keep this under control. You guys, they're not all they're not all this way.
All right, Andy, this series that also has timelines and question marks and time travel and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Andy, there are just to set some bounds on this. There are between, depending on what you count and what list you look at, somewhere between 150 and 190 novels that comprise this world. So you tell me it's not the original.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But yeah, so this book was something that when it first got announced, I don't think anyone had ever really had strong hopes we would see. The last Dragonlance, the last true Dragonlance novel was published in January of 2010, I think. It was right at the beginning of the year. I think it was 2010. And then the property got...
That was like the third in that like interstitial series of novels, right? That took place between the original books.
Was that trilogy was Dwarf Home, and it was the Fate of Thorbarden. Douglas Niles wrote that one.
Okay, that wasn't what I was thinking of. I was thinking of the the books that they wrote tell the stories that take place in between the original 3 Dragons books.
Yeah, so the main 2 authors wrote a series of books, and you might be thinking of one called, I think their last one was a series called the Lost Chronicles trilogy.
Yeah, those are
and it ended with Dragons of the Hourglass Mage. That was the last book in that trilogy.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yep. So that was the last big book, the last big storyline. And there were a couple of books that I'm sure were just in the pipeline and trickled out after that, like 2 or 3 books.
Okay, got you. And
to close out the last couple of open trilogies. And then everything just kind of stopped after 2010. And Wizards of the Coast got involved because this was originally these were originally Tor books, if you remember Tor.
I do. I remember Tor. Are they not around anymore?
Nope.
I think they got absorbed, bought up by Wizards of the Coast.
Yep.
Wizards? Oh.
Yep.
Okay. What have they done with Tor?
I don't know if they are still publishing books in some of their other fantasy worlds, but this basically just Dragonlance sat on a shelf and gathered dust. And there was a lot of wrangling over who had what rights to the books. And it felt like it was one of those things that was just going to get stuck in limbo and never move until finally... No, go ahead, JJ.
There was definitely a period where people were expecting the next version of D&D to come out with a campaign setting based in Krynn, because there was a lot of talk about that. Oh, we're going to make like a source book, because the Dragonlance setting was a setting like Forgotten Realms and Eberron and these.
I remember that.
These classic D&D settings, and Dragonlance was just one of those settings.
That was its start. Yep.
At its start, yeah. And then these novels got really popular, and I think not so many people played the setting. And so there was an expectation they would revive the setting first, and then they would start a new line of books or do something like that. But it seems that never happened. until, Michael.
Right. Flash forward. Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman made an announcement. I feel like it was during COVID that they
Sounds
made the
right.
announcement, because the first new book came out in 2022. But maybe during COVID, they announced that they had, after however many years of wrangling and legal fighting, had finally had, I think it was a judge, rule in their favor in terms of ownership of the rights to be able to move forward with publishing a new book. Which, in the small circles that are the Dragonlance community made pretty big waves.
Mm-hmm.
And so they announced it would be a new trilogy. They wrote the books over like a 2-year span. I think they came out each August from 2022 to 2024. And I know, JJ, I know you read them sort of partway through them coming out, because I don't think the last book had released when you were reading the second one.
Yeah, I didn't quite get through all of them immediately on release, but I did buy them not at release or very close to it.
Yep. So I made the choice to wait until they were all published before I read them, and then got distracted by other books. So I'm just now getting back to reading them all, but I can at least just burn through them all. And I got through the first book, and there's a lot going on.
A lot going on, like you don't remember stuff, or a lot going on, like they smashed every idea they had for the last 20 years into one book.
Well, so it's more of the latter, because the choice that they made in writing that first book, and I've started the second book, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be quite as bad, but the choice that they made was, it's been, almost 15 years since people have visited the world of Krynn. We're going to do some heavy lifting, reminding people of the lore, capital T, capital L.
Yeah. My memory of reading that first book is there's a bunch of stuff that's like, could I just skip this whole chapter? Like nothing actually occurs here. There's just people reminding us or narrating at us.
You know how Tolkien will take 10 pages and just talk about the countryside that they're running through?
Yeah, dude. Like half of a book.
Yeah. So they'll take half of a chapter and remind you how the pantheon of the gods works, or the first half of this chapter will tell you about how wizards become officially recognized by the Wizarding Conclave by
they don't
taking
think anybody's
their
gonna
test.
go back and read it, right?
Well, it would be so much, right? Even if you would just the main novels, right, would be the 15 books, just the main like trilogies of the biggest characters in the series. It's still a lot of books to read.
And even if you just go back and read the first original three most popular books, right? Those books aren't like that either. They're sit not. And monologue at you for like 45 minutes.
They set up the characters and then, hey, the city's on fire. We need to go.
And they get to that stuff over the course of the books, and they explain it when it's important. Here, it's just like, I'm the daughter of a knight. Let's talk about wizards for a chapter. You're like, wait, why?
Huh.
So I think I will give them this credit, and the first book is broken up into four or five sections, and the first section is very slow, and I think that they made a very smart decision in opening the second section of the book with a conversation between I'll call them two old friend characters. The scene with Justarius and Dalamar, JJ.
Yeah.
Where they're talking in the tower. And it's just scene. Like, after this kind of long slog of lore and exposition and introducing a new character and all of her woes, they give you a nice heaping plate full of comfort food, right? Like, these are the characters I remember in a setting that is very familiar to me, and like, this is what I'm here for. and it did a really good job of just sort of resetting things a little bit. And the book never really went that much lighter on the lore dump from there, but it did begin to intersperse it with more and more familiar scenes and characters, which helped make it a little more palatable. And then by the end of the book, they got where they were going, and so now they've really started to tell the story that they're trying to tell.
Yeah, I think the thing that irks me is it feels like so much of the first book is prelude to an adventure that
It
should
really
have been
does.
summarized in like 2 chapters, and then the adventure can start.
Yep.
Which it's not clear from the opening of the book that that's what the adventure is going to be, right? You got to get there to understand that this whole thing is the prelude.
Yep.
But like, ooh, guys, like, if this was the story all along, why did we put this whole part in a book? This feels bad.
All of the old books followed a very similar kind of pacing, right? Even the trilogies, I think this was the difference for me. Even the trilogies in the old books started off very quickly, and you got the pieces filled in as you went racing along with the story, right? And so in certain ways, each of those books kind of felt like its own novel, even though they were telling one continuous story. This book definitely sets up instead like, we're writing a trilogy, and this is the start of it.
Yeah, I think, and it's so hard to say, what is the reasoning for this or why or anything like that. But I'm very curious to think what you feel about the next 2 books, though, because, like you say, the inciting action kind of finally gets going, and now you're on the journey. And so I'm curious where you land on it as you go along the actual path.
Did you read the next books faster, noticing this?
Is that me?
Yeah. Since you've already read them.
Well, so I had enforced wait times between some of these books because when I had.
No, I just mean, like, did you feel like you did them faster?
I don't remember, truthfully. It was so long ago, but I definitely know I have opinions about which of the ones I like the best.
Okay. Yeah, I will say, Andy, just as something of an answer to that it has been a lot easier to just fall into the rhythm of the second book than it was the first book.
Oh, okay. But you're not done yet.
No, I'm probably only 4 chapters into the first book, but it definitely just sort of it makes a nod to what happened in the previous book, and then just off he goes, continuing to tell the story. Right? No real exposition, no real run up. It just assumes you read the last book, and here we go.
Okay.
I did have a really funny moment, and I don't know if they'll do anything with it, though I'm sure they will. Andy, they open the second book back with those same 2 old favorite characters, having a conversation about trying to restore an artifact, and the artifact is a main part of the story in the first book, and I know will come into play here in the second book. But the artifact gets broken at the end of the first book, and they're
like
left trying to repair it. And it's very much one of those Deus Ex Machina devices. And this whole first scene is, oh no, our Machina is broken. But wait, we know the descendant of the Machina maker. What if we go find them, and maybe they know something about it?
MacGuffin.
Yeah. The ancient, powerful MacGuffin that was created by the wizards of old was built by this one person. But luckily their descendant is alive. And there's only one, and they're only in one specific place in the like classic fantasy trope way.
Yes.
Right.
Which, to be completely fair, the Dragonlance books were completely full of fantasy tropes all the time.
They were
forever.
chock full of them, and they played with them sometimes too. They weren't always taking themselves very seriously. There were definitely books that were very tongue in cheek about it.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, like the Fizzband satirizing Gandalf the entire time, right? Like,
yes,
it's the whole deal.
The doddering old wizard.
Yeah, yeah. It's good. I knew exactly who you were talking about when you brought that part up, Michael.
Yes, good.
That's wild.
So I'm excited to fall back into the world of this.
Speaking of falling back, by the time people hear this, Artemis will have fallen back to Earth successfully. In my opinion, it seems to be 99.9% of things going very smoothly.
I mean, Outlook didn't work, but was that really a big loss?
And the toilet was
not
broken
as big as
for
the
about
toilet
2
being
hours.
broken. Yeah.
Well, they rebooted the toilet and it worked. That
Yeah,
was the
fine.
issue.
Yeah.
Losing Outlook is an upgrade in IMO.
I mean, if you needed 2 of them and neither one worked, I think your advertising is already over, right?
Yeah, notice they didn't say brought to you by Copilot or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought it's really cool. You guys have watched any of it? Do you watch the takeoff and some of the mission stuff?
I've watched
seen bits and
as much
pieces
as
of the mission from stuff here and there.
Yeah, I watched the launch live with the kids. I know they've watched some of it in school. I definitely watched a couple hours of the moon flyby.
Yeah, the moon flyby stuff is cool.
Just them talking about it and all that, and it's a lot of the pictures of the Earthrise.
Yeah, I think we're finally starting to get the high res pictures of the backside of the moon back now, so that should be cool to see.
Pretty crazy.
I'm very intrigued about those. Yeah,
looking good. Fascinating, cool. Hopefully that means the next couple missions are not on the chopping block for budget cuts and all that other stuff. I would assume not, but you never know these days.
The depressing thing about NASA is budget cuts are always around the corner because every administration seemingly hates NASA for some reason.
Yeah. Even though they'll take credit for whatever happens.
Yep.
Not to be too depressing about an amazing achievement, however.
Look, it's a wild success as far as I can tell. Like it's rad. Watching that takeoff was like cool as heck, man.
Yeah, it was impressive takeoff. Yeah, so impressive that I decided to go out and order that Lego that I had decided I didn't want, and now I'm kind of like, you know what? Screw it. It's cool.
Well, you're right that it's cool. So
yeah,
truth.
Yeah. I'll be chasing that demon. Michael, you still chasing demons in Hollow Knight? What's going on?
Yeah, still making slow, steady progress. I've gotten to a point where in a couple of directions I've run up towards the edge of the map. So now it's just, or either the edge of the map or obstacles that I'm not yet equipped to get past. So now it's just kind of poking around at different sections where I know I haven't explored the map and trying to figure out, okay, where does the game want me to go next?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so what is your current thing that you know about? What are you doing?
So right now, the pretty early on, you get the 3 white masks, boss locations dropped on the map for you to work your way towards. I have beaten one of them.
Okay. Yeah, you're in it.
Yeah. So I made my way all the way out to, I'm trying to remember which section it was, which one I did first. All the way out to the distant village.
Okay,
and
so you did that.
Beat the one out there. Yep.
What is the prognosis of your exploration versus push towards the end of the game at this point, now that you've started hitting edges?
So I still have 2 more of those bosses to find and beat. So I have a feeling that there is still a fair bit of map for me to explore. There's still a big section off to one side of the map and kind of a big hole in the middle of the map that I'm pretty sure will still need to be filled in. So,
but you're not like, oh, I'm just rushing at this point. I'm still exploring.
It's still exploration. There's still, sections of the map that I don't have a map for. So I know that there's still more exploration to be done.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Right. If people want to tell us what their coolest idea from Artemis, their favorite realization about going back to the moon was. Where would they send that?
They can send that to podcast@weweregamers.com. Tell us what your favorite picture was so far.
Ah, yeah, man. There's gonna be so many good ones. I
Oh,
saw
I
those
know.
cameras they took up there. They always take a Nikon's because they tested them.
Mhm.
And a D5 is a great camera, but they also took up there that new, I think it was the Z9. Oh, buddy, those are gonna have good pictures.
There was a very funny moment in one of the ones that I saw was, the commander was having a, video talk with mission control or whatever. I think this was before they went around the moon. And in the background, one of the crew members is changing something on the camera. Like they have one of the SLRs in their hand,
Mm-hmm.
and they go to eject the battery. And you can see that they're pressing that part of where the little release is for the battery in the thing. They have it open and they're holding some stuff.
Mhm.
And they press it and the battery shoots off the other direction.
Oh, they are.
Oops.
Yes, they are spring loaded. Yeah.
And on Earth, that moves the battery 0.1 inches.
I mean, not even. Yeah, it just moves it outside the catch.
In space, it goes flying to the other side of the cabin, and they have to go swim over into the shot where the commander is talking or whatever, and grab the battery and then swim back out.
That's very good.
Very funny.
Love it. Love it.